First of all, hello everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of City of Ballarat on the topic of building better homes for the future and the work that we're doing to support this. Paul, Joe, Brad, if everything that was coming to us in the strategic or statutory planning context was like what you've presented, we'd probably be able to pack up and go home, because ultimately we're striving for the same things. In terms of setting the scene for you though, local government is the bureaucracy. If we want to implement a planning scheme amendment, we spend probably 18 months to 2 years talking to you about it out in the community, and another 6 months toing and froing with council on what that might look like. And then we ask a minister to authorise that planning scheme amendment, and then we have to spend probably another 12 to 18 months explaining it to the minister and all the people within his department, who then make a decision that will go out for exhibition to all the people we've already consulted with for about another 18 months. And then, if we're lucky, we get a planning scheme amendment through and we're a long way down the track, and that leads to a lot of the conversation that we've had tonight about the delays in things and that our planning scheme and the things and the policies that guide us and give us and you certainty are challenging and difficult to achieve. But on a positive note, I'm here to talk to you about a wonderful initiative, the Elevating Environmentally Sustainable Development Project, which in about June 2021, a number of Victorian councils worked with the Municipal Association of Victoria, so MAV, and the Council Alliance for Sustainable Built Environment, CASB, on a project designed to ensure Victorian communities are resilient to the effects of climate change. And in May last year, I'm pleased to say that our councillor group endorsed City of Ballarat's involvement in this initiative. And in doing so, it fully aligns essentially with what we're working towards. Our council plan, its number one priority for City of Ballarat and our community is an environmentally sustainable future. So out of those strategies, we already have a carbon neutrality and 100% renewables action plan to 2025, a Ballarat integrated transport action plan, a circular economy framework, and the Ballarat zero emissions plan. A key conclusion of the first stage of the ESD initiative was that feasibility work justified a planning scheme amendment to require increased environmental standards in new buildings, and that it should extend to a state level provision rather than being embedded just into local policies. For Ballarat, with unprecedented levels of population growth forecast, it's essential that these new residential and commercial development is built to the highest environmental standards. Ensuring sustainable development principles are embedded within our planning scheme will go a long way towards ensuring that our new growth areas and infill sites provide high quality, sustainable homes and workplaces for our growing community. With a suite of city shaping strategic planning work underway, including the housing strategy, the growth areas precinct structure plans and sequencing planning, and the CBD urban design controls, there is a clear opportunity to implement sustainable development principles across our statutory planning framework. As a result, City of Ballarat joined forces with 23 other local governments to draft and lodge the planning scheme amendment to the Minister for Planning in a push for a more sustainable design requirement. Amendments seek to build on the current environmental sustainable development requirements for new developments, and in doing so, better protect the natural environment, reduce resource and energy consumption, and support the health and wellbeing of future occupants. Alongside the request for the amendment, the City of Ballarat with other local governments wrote to the Minister seeking support for the amendment and reiterating that the current planning requirements do not reflect any of the real and immediate climate change risks. The current drafted planning controls are in the form of particular provision. So across state, they'll all be the same, which is an established mechanism for addressing specific issues through a permit process and having the added benefit of being standardised across all Victorian councils that choose to introduce it. It also intended to provide clarity and certainty for developers working across municipal boundaries. Finally, the planning advice concluded that a particular provision would streamline many existing planning permit controls, reduce the burden on applicants, and increase clarity for applicants. The amendment before the Minister does not seek to introduce new planning permit triggers, and as such, the requirements to meet elevating ESD objectives will only apply to those development proposals that require a planning permit in the first place. And what the objectives cover: operational energy, so energy efficiency on site, renewable energy generation and energy supply, with the aim of achieving net zero operational carbon. Sustainable transport, so facilitating increased active transport with an aim of reducing private vehicle trips and setting the condition to ensure a smooth transition for the future of electric vehicles. Embodied carbon, so reducing use of carbon-intensive building materials. Climate resilience, so resilience of built environment to climate-related hazards. Integrated water management, so a reduction of potable water consumption through efficiency measures and non-potable water sources, and the improving the quality of stormwater discharging from the site. Indoor environmental quality, so improving the comfort of building occupants, including internal temperatures, air quality and daylight access. Circular economy, one close to my heart, which is improving rates of resource recovery during both construction and operation, and closing the loop by encouraging the use of materials and recycled content. And lastly, green infrastructure, so increasing the amount of green infrastructure to provide a range of ecosystem service benefits and reducing the contribution of the built environment to the urban heat island effect. So what this means when you're applying for your planning permit. So there's no additional permit triggers. It applies only to permit applications for 2 or more dwellings. And some exemptions do apply. Subdivisions, for example, rural zones, Vic Smart applications, and works and buildings of less than 50 square metres, together with some others. So in the context of that, where it's really important for us is to capture this at the current phase that we're in, which is having identified our new growth areas and doing a work on a housing strategy that looks at how we can encourage infill development and renewal of our existing CBD. And that's where we hope to capture all these wonderful things out of the ESD principles, but they have to still be embedded into our planning scheme yet. So in some respect, we say it's also your responsibility as the developer or the applicant or the builder to understand that we would like to embed these in our precinct structure plans and in our housing strategies and all the other strategies that complement this body of work. There's also other programs underway that support and complement the Elevating ESD project, and this includes DELP's Environmentally Sustainable Development of Buildings and Subdivisions Roadmap, which outlines a 2-stage program to introduce new environmentally ESD planning policies and standards that will help. The intent of it, in a nutshell, make it easier to recycle, cool new developments and our urban environment, facilitate active and sustainable transport choices, reduce exposure to air and noise pollution, improve building efficiency, energy efficiency, and support the transition to low emission future, enhance the role of planning in stormwater management and efficient water use, strengthen and extend the ESD considerations, and planning for these land uses does not incorporate many environmental factors apart from the stormwater management. I've lost my notes on the rest of that, but I think my tummy's grumbling as well. So look, it is intended that the new provisions will be developed to expand a number of relevant ESD considerations for those forms of development. Development of an integrated planning systems approach to the ESD will follow in stages, and reforms as part of stage one. That's the piece of paper I was looking for before, sorry everyone. But stage two will introduce new and expanded particular provisions across a range of key ESD elements to achieve our wider urban sustainability goals. These planning reforms are occurring concurrently with longer-term programs to improve the environmental performance of developments through the building system. And we've talked about it here tonight, the stage process of changes and improvements to the energy efficiency standards of the National Construction Code, with new dwellings to meet the 7-star rating on energy efficiency and accessibility requirements, which will be operational from May. And finally, what else are we doing at Ballarat? The team are working on a sustainable subdivision framework trial, and this will strengthen the subdivision layouts and standards that pick up on solar orientation, water-sensitive streets, contours, tree retention, to name a few, and really got me excited when we started talking about Mullum Creek and what opportunities are there for us. But it is a challenge. Not every developer, not every home buyer is in the position to work with this in the same context as Mullum Creek. And we also have we're advertising for an ESD advisor, if anybody's interested, and it's gone out for advertising as we speak. We've also developed, and they're newly established, it's our Sustainable Environment team, and it's something that's well needed, and we're very excited to finally have a full gamut. And that team are working on Ballarat Net Zero's emissions plan, a biodiversity policy, an internal ESD policy and guidelines, because we need to practice what we preach, the biodiversity strategy, the waste strategy, curbside transition plan, and state of the environment report revamp. That's it in a nutshell. Probably most of what you would want to ask of me will probably be done through a panel. But thanks everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.